the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henrys at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food. Henry's soul food. What do you need? Soul food. Henry's soul food.
Welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show, brought to you by Golden Crust Bakery, the fastest growing Caribbean-owned franchise in the United States. Golden Crust is committed to the delivery of quality food and excellent customer service. Visit them today at goldencrustbakery.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us. I know we have a Hussein who's calling in from Canada. He's a terrific guest to give us insights on the terrorism in Syria and throughout the world. Just fantastic. We had him on a television show before. Hello, I'm Armstrong Williams. Yes, we are live. We're live. Oh, boy, what's on your mind? We're just waiting on our guests, 1-866-620-6620. Let me give a shout-out to Dedrick. Is it Diedrich or Derek? It sounds like it's Diedrich. I think it is Diedrich. Let me give a shout-out to him. Dead right. He said Dead Rick. That's pretty funny. Diedrich, how you doing, brother? Yolanda, how are you? Tony Jameson, Alex, how's everybody? At the big WGCV, 6:20 a.m. I got to give a shout out to our flag station. I don't give enough shout outs. Let me give a shout out to our executive producer, Nancy. Yeah, I got it right. Rhymes with Friedrich. Dedrick Frederick. Yeah, we got it right. Give a shout out to Alex. Give a shout out to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to talk a little about Syria. Should we go into Syria? Should we launch missiles? What are your thoughts? 1-866-620-6620. This is the kind of talk that we do changes and impacts America. That's right. The kind of talk we do changes and impacts America. All the time, everywhere. That's what we do. We want to get your input. And on the show today, we want your input on the show today. We want you to give us a call. Give us a call at 1-866-620-6620, 1-866-620-6620. Listen, we don't have a dog in this fight. We should have learned from Iraq. We should have learned from Libya. We should have learned from Afghanistan. Why are we so set on repeating the lessons of history? The more things change, ironically, the more they remain the same. Why should innocent people die? Because of the egos of others. Why do leaders commit innocent people to die? It's not the leaders. It's not their families. It's not those that are elected. It's everyday people that we seem to dumb down the value of their lives. We're waiting on Hussan to join us. But in the meantime, why? I mean, look at the number of people from the South that die in our wars. Overwhelmingly from the South. Why? Why is that? Why are we losing so many of our boys, young men and women, in these senseless wars? What are we trying to prove? What are we trying to prove? Tell me, somebody. Tell me. What are we trying to prove? 1-866-620-6620. Charles, You have a comment. What is going? Charles, maybe you could give a perspective. What's your thoughts on all this?
Because she with the carnival. Armstrong with the carnival that we living in these days and times. What we living in. That's what we go by. To go by the golden rules. The golden rules ain't respect like they used to be. And so that's how it is. And then I have to say what other thing. I give a shout out for my Warren Valentine.
How is Warren?
Valentine keep everything real that we need to put more into our community and stuff like that. And so, brother Warren Valentine out there, listen to y'all. I say I appreciate you, brother, because you be telling the truth. Keep it real. Keep it real.
So, do you think we
keep the money in the should I say we take so much out of our community these days and time?
Listen, Charles, do you think, I'm trying to ask you, I'm trying to gain from you, do you think there's a reason for us to be in Syria?
Well, yeah. If you would ask me, yeah, I would say so.
Tell us why.
I say because if these countries over there, then you have to go, and then just like our President Obama, I mean, he has to make the best decision. I mean, a lot of times people say the president don't make good decisions, but he make the best decisions because he the president. I say he the president. I say, shoot, whatever he see fit, then that's what he do. I said, then that's what he do. That he have to shoot with it might not be with everybody, but sometimes the president have to lead. He has so much to do. Shoot, at nighttime when he have to go to bed, he has to think about what the best thing for the country.
So why is it best for us to go in Syria?
Well, Armstrong, you done been right here a long time. You know, and I know. It's just a simple math. It's just a mathematic thing that we all have to go through. I say sometimes that when you come home, shoot, people might not shoot like you with making the best decisions, but that's your decision. I mean, I don't like a lot of things that you say, but I love your show. I say I love your show when you come home.
Well,
and
listen.
I think you one of the best mathematics things.
Well, Charles, thank you for calling.
I don't like a lot of
You're fading on me. Thank you, Charles. You know, George Zimmerman's conscience is really whipping him. You know, police arrested him again today on gun charges. That's why I said just leave him alone and let life itself deal with him. And life takes care of it, man. I'm telling you, life is really whipping him. He has gotten into nothing but trouble. His wife is leaving him. He's in a brawl with his in-laws. I mean, look at what's happening to him. Ezekiel, man, I haven't heard from you in a while. Hello, Ezekiel.
I was just sitting back listening to you, man. That's all. I wasn't saying anything.
What's on your heart, brother?
I just wanted to say I agree with you, I think. I don't think we need to go over there.
No, man. Under no conditions.
I really don't. I mean, I feel sorry for those people. But, I just don't think we should go over on this one.
It doesn't make any sense, Ezekiel.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
Makes no sense at all. There's no justification for it.
No. I just don't believe we need to be there.
And what you're going to end up doing, you're going to do the very same thing you're trying to protect the people from, killing more of them.
Right. Yep. And also, I wanted to say, Warren Valentine was here in Columbia this weekend, and he did a nice job, man. Like Charles was saying, it was good. It was a good turnout, and he's got some good things to say,
Oh no, I'm listening. Let me raise this with you. Have you been following what's going on with George Zimmerman?
No, I heard you said something about it just now. I'm on the way from work. I hadn't looked at any news today.
He was arrested.
For what?
Some issue with his in-laws, and he was arrested on gun charges.
Wow. I heard you say they should just leave him alone and take care of himself, and that's exactly what's happening. You know, for what he done, he's paying for it.
His conscience is beating him to death.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. Whatever man sows, he's gonna reap. And that's I mean, I don't wish bad luck on bad for nobody, but you got to pay for what you you got to pay. You got to pay for what you do. And
And you know what? And you never stop paying with someone like him.
Stop paying. No. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Well, look, Ezekiel, it's so good hearing from you, man. I'm glad you still listen to the show. And this is a no-brainer not going in Syria. And the president's not going to win from Congress on Wednesday. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Thank you, Ezekiel. So I hear my guest is calling in, Hussan Duhman. And so he'll be joining us on the other side of this break. I'm Armstrong Williams, 1-866-620-6620. We'll be back.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Cross's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean. Only at a Golden Cross near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrossBakery.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. What does it mean to be conservative? Freedom of speech, freedom of free enterprise, freedom of assembly, less government, less taxes. As a matter of fact, a flat tax. Everyone should pay proportional tax. It doesn't matter whether you make $100 million or $10,000. Everyone should pay their 10%. Everyone should have something at stake in this American economy. I'm Armstrong Williams, expressing what we mean by conservative traditional value.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back. Willie, you have a comment. Thank you for calling. Hi, Willie.
Yeah, the question about Syria, it's kind of difficult for, when you ask us, should we be in Syria, you could say, if we were the president, what would we do? Because the president, he's in a difficult position, I would say. Because when you're in a position when you can do something to try to save people's lives, even though people may lose their lives in the conflict, but when you're in a position, it's easier for us to say we wouldn't go. It's because we're not the president. But if you were in that position and women and children and people are being killed, and you had the power to try to do something.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you, what power does he have and what can he do in that situation? How do you know what your targets are? How do you know you're not killing innocent people? That's the whole problem. We don't know what it is, what's going to happen once they get there. What can he do?
Right. When we went to Iraq, okay, we could blame President Bush for going to Iraq, but President Bush took the advice from the inspectors. The inspectors came back and told President Bush that they had weapons of mass destruction. President Bush didn't lie about it. The inspectors lied about it. So President Obama can only do what the people he has on the ground in Syria are telling him. That's
but don't you think we should learn from President Bush's mistakes?
Why
repeat the same mistakes?
Well, we can learn from Vietnam. We can learn from a whole lot of wars.
Yes.
And the point I'm saying is that when if you're not in that position, it's hard to really say what he should do, because if he doesn't do anything, more people are going to die whether we go or not.
That is what they do. Their values are not our values. They can kill people and think nothing of it. But Willie, thank you for calling. I appreciate your balance and fairness to the topic. Miss Paulette, welcome to the show. Welcome.
Good to hear from you.
Good to hear from you.
Hey, the offense that you talked about Zimmerman, well, he just recently got a ticket for speeding, and then another. Yeah, he's done a heroic thing by helping a family that car that turned over, but Zimmerman thinks he's invincible. He thinks he could commit crime, high ride, and loot, and whatever else he wants to do because he thinks he's untouchable. You know that song that they sing, "Can't touch this"? He thinks he's wearing a sign saying you can't touch this. But his fate will be coming soon if he don't repent and turn to the Lord, because he's going to need all of God and his angels and everything else to help him, because he is a dead man walking anyway.
Well, you have
That's how I feel about it.
Well, his conscience is whipping him.
Well, it ain't whipping him enough. I'm surprised if they said he was on suicide watch at one time. Well, okay. Well, why he going to jump? That's my thing. Save us the misery.
Well, the good news is time catches up with all of us.
I think his conscience eating him so bad, he don't know what to do. He don't know whether to go left, right, up, down, or what, or turn around. He don't know what to do. I wouldn't want that on my consciousness. I believe just even if police officers, when they have to kill somebody for the sake of saving someone else's life, they have to surrender their gun. They have to go through a channel of being debriefed and all of those, and psychiatric evaluation, because it wears on you. That's why you got so much PTSD going on, because a lot of the World War II veterans, my father was, and then you got the Vietnam veterans, having to kill somebody even in self-defense it wears on you. And he had no defense. It's just that the legal system was all twisted up, and the poor girl that really wanted to say he was guilty, she didn't know which way to go because she was going by what the information that they gave her and the information they had to use. But, sometimes it's better not to execute them. Let them execute themselves mentally, because that's what's going on in his mind, because he lied all the way through the whole trial. But, I hope the Lord, he repent before he dies so he can go to heaven on the other side. Now, he ain't going to get the same reward we going to get.
Well, Miss Paulette, it's always good hearing from you, and thank you for calling. Love you. Hussan, man, what happened to you? I've been waiting on you since 4.
Yeah, the thing is, Armstrong, I thought that you would call because I just come back from work and I didn't check my email today. I checked it on Saturday over the weekend, but not today. I thought that you would call.
Well, it's okay. We have you now. It's so good to have you on. Talk to us about the situation in Syria, what the president is trying to do, what should we do, and help people understand just what is at stake here.
It's a very complex struggle, Armstrong. I mean, the thing is, as you know, and as I'm sure the distinguished listeners know, the Syrian situation is the product of what they call the Arab Spring, and you had these mass revolts against governments, and governments fell down, and they were replaced by sometimes various factions, sometimes some kind of Islamic governments. Then you had the prolonged struggle in Syria, where you have a minority that's in power, which is the Alawite minority, ruling a country that's made up of a lot of various ethnic and religious and sectarian groupings. The Sunnis, for example, are about 60%, whereas the Alawite, who are in power, are only about 10% to 13% of the population. And they're in power. They fear that if they give up power, they will be massacred by the majority, especially the Sunnis, whereas the Sunnis do not want them. And now they're in opposition. A lot of these, not everybody in the opposition is a Sunni, but the majority are. And so you have this tug of war between the two, and there has been no decisive victory by either. And they are uncompromising, both of them. They do not want to come to an agreement or any compromise because it's either me or you. That's it. It's a zero-sum kind of mentality.
What advice would you give the president?
Say again?
What advice would you give President Obama if you had an audience with him?
I personally would advise the U.S. not to intervene, in my opinion. Because, you see, foreign policy, Armstrong, has to be based on cool heads, not on personal emotions. And the alternative for the United States definitely is a worse alternative than Assad. Now, the Assad regime is a brutal regime and has always been, not only Bashar Assad, who's in power now, but also going back to his father, Hafez Assad, who's been in power since 1970. So the Assad family have been in power for what now, 43 years. And they've been brutal all along. I mean, they've never been kind or angelic. But the thing is, the alternative for the U.S. is basically an Islamist alternative. That's the problem. If the alternative had been a liberal democratic system, I would have been the first to embrace that. But the alternative, in all likelihood, the alternative is Islamist. And that's the problem. Now, the U.S., the history of the U.S. in the region dictates that there is a lot of hypersensitivity about the U.S. intervention because of past history, most recently the Iraq War. And I think that the U.S. should just stand back and let others intervene to arrive at a diplomatic solution. Perhaps Russia and China on Assad's side, most especially Russia. And as for the opposition, probably the European Union, most especially France, would try to reach a compromise. Although I'm not sure, about France's attitude towards the Islamists in the opposition, because the French are hostile to the Islamists in opposition or anywhere. So it's for President Obama and the U.S. administration just to sit back and not intervene. In my opinion, that would be the best solution.
What is the solution to this issue?
Well, the solution has to be arrived at by the Syrian people themselves. I do not believe in a solution that can be imposed from the outside. The Syrian people have to come to terms, or the fighting factions have to come to terms with one another and coexist with one another within an enlightened, modern, progressive Syria. If they cannot do that, Armstrong, I don't believe that anybody else can do that for them. They are the ultimate ones who can decide that. So I do not have any ready-made solution to suggest for them, except that if they accept pluralism and diversity and respect for human rights, not only the Assad administration, but also the opposition, and many of those are Islamists, by the way. Then if they come to terms on that basis, then that's fine. But the problem is that both of them are mutually exclusive. The Assad does not want the opposition, especially the Islamists. The Islamists do not want Assad, period.
Who has the leverage and the power to convince Assad to resolve this problem? How can Assad resolve it by saving face? Is he in a no-win situation? Who has the leverage there that we're not using?
I think the Russians are probably the best candidates. The Russians and the Chinese, but the Russians would be the best. And as for the opposition, probably in all likelihood the French would be the best. But I think, in my opinion, no matter what, the U.S. should not intervene in this conflict. It would not be anything to be gained. There's nothing to be gained by the U.S. and everything to lose.
What's the worst and the best case scenario, Hussan?
I think it depends from whose perspective. If you're talking about the point of view of the U.S. foreign policy, I think the worst scenario would be for the Islamists to come to power, because that would definitely destabilize the region. That would definitely threaten Israel.
Hold that, Hussan. We're coming back to you with much more. Hussan Duhman is our guest. I'm Armstrong Williams. Don't go away.
Hi, Mike Reagan here. The president has just delayed his Obamacare employee mandate for 1 year. But nothing has changed. The Congressional Budget Office still predicts 7 million Americans will lose their current insurance, and thousands of rules are being implemented today. Obamacare is over 20,000 pages, almost 3 times longer than the whole IRS tax code. Worse, the IRS is now in charge of enforcing the law. You need to protect yourself, your family, and your business with the easy-to-read guide. It's called the Obamacare Survival Guide, already a #1 New York Times bestseller. Newsmax calls it the best guide to the new law. Get the Obamacare Survival Guide today at bookstores everywhere, or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 off the cover price by going now to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Elder chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back to the show. I know Dr. Gary Bernard is joining us. Dr. Bernard, how are you? Hussein, tell our audience a little about yourself and tell us exactly where do we find ourselves and what lessons can we take from Iraq, Libya, Benghazi, and Afghanistan?
Okay, a little bit about myself. Well, I am of Libyan background, and I was born and grew up in Libya. My late father, was the president of the University of Libya before Gaddafi came to power. My maternal grandfather was the prime minister. And then after Gaddafi came to power, both of them were imprisoned. My father for 10 years, my grandfather for 5 years. And my father was even tortured during those 10 years. I spent my 70s in Libya, 80s and early 90s in the United Kingdom. I went back to Libya, became a university professor of political science, and I immigrated to North America at the beginning of the 21st century, some 10 years ago or so. I've written a book called Tête-à-Tête with Muhammad. I have a website. I've written a number of articles, 3 of them about the Arab Spring, 2 of them about Libya. And so this is a very brief outline of my background. As for what we can learn from Iraq and Afghanistan and so on and so forth, in my own opinion, Armstrong and the distinguished listeners, I think that we have to base foreign policy on level-headedness. And I can understand very well when people get highly emotional about people being killed and so on and so forth, but we cannot base foreign policy on personal emotions. We have to see what's at stake. Now, the war against Afghanistan, I supported that after 9/11. The war against Iraq, I wasn't so sure because of the premises that were given by President Bush. They weren't really convincing, and it turned out that the U.S. really should not have gone to that war. And in that case, the U.S. has to learn the lesson that everything has to be based on solid evidence and on cool-headedness. And this is imperative in the Syrian conflict because this looks like a very prolonged conflict that's going to continue for some time. And the U.S., no matter how attractive the U.S. is to the idea of involvement and care for human rights and for human life, it has to consider that the alternative to the Assad regime, no matter how brutal it is actually worse. And therefore, the best thing would be not to intervene in this particular conflict.
Can this conflict escalate?
It might. If the Islamists came to power, they might agitate people even much more against Israel and would want to reclaim the Golan Heights and probably would go on the offensive and want to reclaim Jerusalem because in Islamic ideology, especially of the Islamists, Jerusalem and all of Israel actually belongs to the Muslims. And that would be a disaster in the Middle East and would spill over into a wide-scale conflict that could involve the U.S. with very dire consequences and would definitely threaten also Saudi Arabia and the oil supply in the Gulf. Given that in the Middle East there are lots of different ethnic groups, religious groups, sectarian groups, and so on and so forth, and not really living happily with one another, the whole region would fragment. And if it did, that would definitely threaten U.S. strategic interests in the long term, probably the welfare and survival of the U.S. itself, especially given the prospect of the idea of getting a massive weapons of destruction somewhere.
Dr. Gary Bernard, you have a question for our guest, Hussan, as we talk about the situation overseas?
Well, this is fascinating. I'm so happy to hear from other people. You hear a lot on the news and through media and newspaper and so forth. I agree with the premise, at least, and I'm certainly no political scientist, but I agree with the premise that we've got to be very, very careful and have our facts together, but understand the historical ramifications and the likelihood that this is an intractable civil kind of conflict, and we have seemingly willingly taken on the role of being the police of the world. And, you know, I get that emotionally. We want to help because this is abhorrent. We hate to see these things happen in humanity. But I can't see how we as a country need to be going over and intervening in something in somebody else's backyard. I know it has huge consequences, and it will spill over to all of humanity in many ways. But I agree that we've got to be very cautious. I personally would be telling my representatives not to do this right now.
Well,
yes, I personally agree with that. Thank you for contributing such a sober point of view. I totally agree that that we have to be very, very careful. We all remember, I think, some of us maybe were alive back then, some of us might have read about it, but when the Soviet Union intervened in the uprisings in Hungary in 1956 and in Czechoslovakia in 1968 to crush what seemed like a liberal democratic opposition to communist rule, the U.S. did not intervene militarily. But when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, the U.S. did. Why? Because in the case of Kuwait, it was doable and it was threatening to vital U.S. interests, whereas in the case of the Soviet Union, even from a moral point of view, the whole world was outraged by the crushing of liberal democratic movements by dictatorial, intolerant communists. The U.S. was wise not to intervene because that would have led to a disaster, probably a third world war with the Soviet Union. So things have to be planned according to level-headedness. This is what I always advise people to do.
What are your thoughts on the United States actually getting in bed with Al-Qaeda?
Yeah, I mean, Al-Qaeda is in the opposition right now. It's one of the Islamist factions standing in opposition to Assad, and this is what I'm saying that.
But Al-Qaeda will never be faithful or loyal in appreciation to the United States. In fact, while we may oust Assad, our next battle will be to fight these Al-Qaeda-led rebels. It's just lunacy.
It is lunacy. It is lunacy. I totally agree. But the thing is, in politics, especially in international politics, very often, unless you're very, very lucky, very often it's a choice between two evils, not really an ideal situation and a bad one. And in the Second World War, people like Churchill and Roosevelt put their hands into the hand of Stalin in order to fight Adolf Hitler, not because they thought Stalin was a great man or a liberal democratic man. He was a mass murderer, but probably a bigger version of Saddam Hussein. But they thought that Stalin, no matter how bad he was, no matter how bad the communists were up to that moment, they were the lesser of the two evils compared to the Nazis and compared to Adolf Hitler. So we have to look at Assad, okay, very brutal and all the rest of it. All of us know that. But what's the alternative? If the alternative is just as bad, and in my opinion even worse because of the Islamist part of it, especially Al-Qaeda, then there is no point in toppling something only to end up with something worse. And that's exactly what happened in Iran when the Iranians made the revolution in the late 1970s. They rebelled and they made a great revolution against the Shah, who was a dictator, yes. But what happened after that? Khomeini came to power. And we had from Khomeini to Ahmadinejad. That's even worse than the Shah, much worse, even from the Iranian point of view. So I think we always have to think about what's good, what's bad, but quite often in foreign policy it's what's bad and what's worse. That's why I think the U.S. should never intervene in this conflict.
Dr.
I agree with that, and Armstrong, I also am happy to hear that you're having experts like this on that can help put this into historical context. I think we as the American people can make level-headed logical assessments if we are reminded of the context. Many times all that we have is this emotional reactionism, and then that flame is fueled by images that we see and all the rhetoric that's thrown around and red lines and all these other things. And it's just, that is scary when you talk about Al-Qaeda and we going together against a regime. That's more than sobering. It's frightening. So having reason and having enough people be able to speak their mind and not just get sound bites and actually have the discussion is so important in making good decisions that we can live with instead of repeating the same thing over and over and over, which
and we need to
learn to do in our history.
We need to learn it quickly. What is the short-term impact of all this, Hussan?
The short-term impact of the conflict depends on who. I mean, in the short term, Armstrong, I don't think there will be, or at least it doesn't look like there will be a decisive resolution of the problem, because this seems to be a highly, highly complex problem. And Syria is probably even more complex than Iraq, because these countries are made up of such various ethnic groupings and religious groupings that the whole thing is very, very sensitive, and we just try to hope for the best. But I think the short-term impact is a lot of worry and a lot of anxiety for the region. And
hold there. We're going to come back. Hussan, Dr. Gary Bernard, I'm Armstrong. Our phone lines are open. 1-866-620-6620. We'll be back.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Cross's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean. Only at a Golden Cross near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrossBakery.com.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Let me come back to Hussan. Tell us why it's such a tinderbox, and how fragile is Israel in all this? Could one try to bring them into this conflict?
Yeah, I mean, what we have to do, Armstrong, basically is when we study what governments do or what people in power do, not always, but quite often they're motivated by a certain ideology. And the ideology that the Islamists in particular, and I'm not talking about people just being Muslim, because Muslims can sometimes be supporters of a liberal democratic system, but I'm talking about people who are Islamists, who take religion as a political ideology. They are motivated by their own history and their own interpretation of the Quran, which tends to be radical. And at the core of that, at the center of that, is total hatred for the Jews, basically, and for more recently for the state of Israel. And they see the Jerusalem, which had been in Muslim hands, that Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi had wrested from the Christian Crusaders many, many centuries ago, and Jerusalem stayed in Muslim hands for around 1,000 years or so. This was basically taken from them. That's how they see it, meaning it was taken from them by the Israelis, by the Jews. And now they have Jerusalem, and they have the major part of Palestine, and they are occupying the rest of it, and they want them out. They want the Jews and the Israelis out. So if they came to power in Syria or anywhere else in the region, and they had weapons of mass destruction, even mid-level weapons of mass destruction, such as chemical or biological, let alone nuclear, they would definitely launch attacks against Israel. And Israel is very, very worried about this. And now it's being said, although I have no confirmation of it, but it's being said that the Israeli top generals are considering the idea of giving the Golan Heights back to Syria, back to the Assad regime, in order to get rid of a major bone of contention between Syria and Israel. All of that in order to stave off any possibility of the Islamists taking advantage of that and playing on people's emotions and coming to power, because the Israelis know that if the Islamists came to power in Syria, that would be major, major danger to their survival.
Dr. Bernard?
Yeah, boy, talking about sobering. Here's a question, and I don't know enough to know if it's even a realistic assumption, but Hussan, does it appear that there's a reasonable role for others in the area? You may have already addressed this, but when I came on, I had not heard, such as Russia or Saudi Arabia, to play any kind of mediating role in this?
Yes, I think, thank you for the question. I think that, like I was telling Armstrong earlier, I think that the U.S. should not get involved in this conflict, and instead there should be other parties involved, external powers, above all Russia and China on the side of Assad, but especially Russia because they have a lot of leverage with the Assad regime. And on the side of the opposition, the problem is that the opposition is not coherent. It's not one solid, coherent entity. It's an agglomeration of various ethnic and religious groupings. So some of them can be swayed by the influence of the European Union, particularly the French. But this only has an impact with the people who are supporters of the liberal democratic system. But they're not really the major part of the opposition, because there are lots of other groupings, including a lot of other Islamists, and especially the jihadists and the Al-Qaeda. Now, Saudi Arabia would not do very well with the jihadists and Al-Qaeda because it has been at war with Al-Qaeda. Nobody has any influence with Al-Qaeda, really, as far as I know, not in terms of countries. Qatar and Turkey have dangled the idea of intervening in order to help reach a settlement, but even they have an influence with the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a major part of the opposition, but not with the jihadist elements or with Al-Qaeda. So I think personally that yes, Russia can influence, especially Russia and China, but especially Russia can influence the Assad regime, but because of the the disorganized nature of the opposition. I think France can play a major role, perhaps Turkey to a certain extent, but I'm not really sure about the jihadists and Al-Qaeda. I don't think they will be controlled or influenced by anyone. That's the problem.
So how do you see that playing out? I'm not saying that this is just hopeless, but it sounds like you're saying that, and I believe that we cannot play a role. We're not credible. We don't have any business playing a major role in that, it seems, to affect any meaningful change, at least. But it sounds like this just has to play out. This is a civil conflict that has to play out. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. I liken it, although on a much smaller scale, much more peaceful scale, I liken it to a very bad marriage, basically. No matter, what the families of the husband and wife say and what their friends say, ultimately it's the husband and wife that can decide whether they want the marriage to continue or not. And I think even though the analogy is not 100% tight in the sense that the Assad regime and the opposition are not really in love with one another and had never been in love with one another, but you have that tug of war between them, and in the end, the Syrian people themselves are the people who can decide whether they can live with one another peacefully or not. I don't think that pluralism and tolerance can be imposed from the outside. People can suggest that, people can help them achieve that, but they will have to decide that for themselves. Yes.
Correct. Well, these are things that we do know. We do not impose belief systems on people.
Correct.
And we don't even understand systems until we try to change them. So this is a very complex issue when you have individuals and these strong systems that are historically embedded with so much religious and other kinds of cultural things that, it just seems ludicrous that we, as a country, the United States, I know that we feel the need, but that's an emotional thing that we feel, that there is no place for us in such a conflict. We have no clue what they've been going through and how this would play out. And yet we tend to... Well, go ahead.
Dr. Hussan, what has not been considered in all of this scenario?
Can you repeat, please?
What hasn't been considered in this scenario?
I think... a lot of things have been considered, but I think there's been an underplay of the danger of the opposition if they came to power. Because I've heard a lot of people opine that somehow, because the Assad regime is so brutal and so repulsive, we should help the opposition, and which is fine. But they're always implying somehow that this opposition is somehow a seeker of a liberal democratic system. But that's not the case. I think what the mass media has to do, and what a lot of people have to realize, is that the opposition is made up of different groupings, and the people who support a liberal democratic system are only a limited, tiny fraction of that opposition, because a lot of that opposition is the Muslim Brotherhood, and a lot of that opposition is Al-Qaeda and the jihadists. So I think the majority of the opposition, as far as I know, are Islamists anyway, whether the Muslim Brotherhood or the jihadists or the Al-Qaeda, and only a minority of them are liberal Democrats. So I think this has to be brought to people's attention so that they wouldn't actually jump at the idea of supporting the opposition regardless, because they have no idea what they're letting themselves in for.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's very wise counsel, yeah.
On
a lighter note, I know I'm making a shift here. Hussan, my wife was born in Tripoli, Libya.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yes, in 1953. It was at Wheelus Air Force Base. Her father was an officer in the military there, yes, after World War II.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yes.
Please give my regards to her.
Well, I will do so.
Thank you.
Dr. Hussan, how do they get more information on you?
Well, I have a website, Armstrong. Thank you for asking me. And the address of the website is very easy. It's myname.com. My name spelled, it's www. And my name is Hussan Duhman, and Hussan spells H-U, S for Sam, A, M for Mary, D for David, U, G-H, M for Mary, A, N for Nancy.com. HussanDuhman.com. HUSAMDUGHMAN.com.
And you've published books and periodicals, am I correct?
Yeah, I have information about the book I've written about tete-a-tete with Muhammad, but I've had a number of articles published, 3 of them about the Arab Spring, 2 of them about Libya specifically. Yes.
Well, we certainly have appreciated having you on. Lots of insight, and I know Nancy's going to call you, but thank you for joining us. All the best.
Yeah, thank you to Dr.
Thank
Bernard.
you. Very nice to hear from you.
Yes. Dr. Bernard, your final thoughts?
While we're in, it seems like deja vu all over again to me. It's such a feeling of unregulated emotion, reactionary kinds of things, a lot of harsh drawing lines in the sand, and things that, they don't make any sense to me. I know why we do them as people, but they don't make any sense historically why we should be right on the edge, the precipice of thinking about going to war with another country. That just has very little sense and logic to it. And so it's pretty frightening that we can continue to do this. And, people will react and say, oh, no, and let's vote no against that. And I'm glad, because we need some back pressure. But we do have a void, a vacuum. And I'm so glad that you have people like this on. I've never heard of the man, but he's speaking such, wise things to us. And I think if we have good information, most of us will step back and say, I think we need to show some patience here.
Yes. Dr. Bernard, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Hussan, and thank you, caller.